Let's see here. Hello everybody, it looks like I am live and direct from Network 23. I'm going to be clipping off this opening stuff to make certain that I'm actually hearing myself. Just going to double check here. Booga booga. Okay, good. Just want to make certain that everything was working because what I'm going to be talking about today is about the horror that I had to deal with for the past 2.5 days. Something that I was like, yeah, this was not the way I wanted to start this day. No, not at all. Anyways, so, as I can imagine, no one's coming to my chat channel yet, only because I've just started my stream, but I'm going to be taking just a moment to go onto Twitter and double checking that there's a link to what I just said, because after all, not everybody comes out. Go here because I don't have anybody yet. Oh, I have a viewer. Yay! I don't know if it's myself or something, but anyways. Twitch TV, Twitch, live and direct, Network 23. Let's see here. It is 2 slashes. I'm going old when I don't remember. It has to be Twitch TV / Burger Becky. Just typing in that stuff. There we go. Let people know that I'm here. Not that anyone cares. Oh, hi there, Lamu. Sorry, I didn't get the phrasing right. I'm right now in the middle of manually posting it up on Facebook just in case. The whole thing is that I, not familiar with all the new settings I've had to do because of what has just happened. Well, I just did the posting. So now we can begin because I've given people a few moments to just check out what's happening. What I wanted to complain about today is passwords. It is really easy to make you lose about 2 days of time doing nothing but going through well over 200 to 300 websites and finding the button that's marked change password. Long story short, it appears that there's a 0 day on Discord, no surprise, in which if somebody sent you a file and you accept it to download, it's possible that it can auto-execute a script. What this script kitty did was that it seems to be that you can write a script that if you're currently logged into Chrome, it can then grab all your passwords and send it to a Discord open channel or something like that so they can then receive it in their chat box. I know this now because I did a bunch of research to find out exactly what the hell this kid did. And it's definitely a kid because it's from Via. Let me find where I tracked them down. They're actually based in Via Velha, Brazil. But how did this person manage to get me to accept the download on Discord? This person was pretty sneaky, and it is the first time I believe that I've been spearphished. And now I know what it feels like, and thankfully this was a script kitty, so all he did was grab my passwords, but he wasn't really, because he could have downloaded stuff and installed malware and encrypted I could have been really screwed over. So let it be a lesson to you that unless you know the person personally, and even then, be cautious, because if they don't like you and you don't know it yet, or a friend of yours was given a program and then was told to send it to you, because, it is so easy to grab your passwords. So I've currently gotten a subscription to something called NordPass, which is a password manager, and it is impossible to scrape the passwords off of it, because, for one, any access to the database needs to be done through a master password. Now, Firefox allows this, but Google didn't. And I had no idea about that. And of course, with Firefox, it's opt-in. Essentially, when it saves passwords within Firefox, it doesn't default to requiring you to have a master password. So therefore, if your master password is not turned on, then it is trivial for someone to write a Python or a batch file or some sort of script that will then just open up your database, to decrypt everything, and then send the plain text into their command and control server. And the way I knew that this was exactly what happened was that once I got this file, shortly thereafter, Chrome just closed. And then Discord closed. So I had to reopen both of them, going like, why were they closed? What the hell happened? And it turns out in order to do the password stealing, you have to have Chrome down, because when Chrome's running, it opens those files and locks them. So therefore, you can't just go ahead and scrape the passwords, and you can't scrape the passwords and then decrypt them because the files are locked. But if you close Chrome, then it can go to town. And the last key ingredient was that because it was running on my machine and I'm logged into it, it can then take the encrypted files that are on disk. Remember, what's on the disk is not is coldly encrypted. So even if you've got a copy of my hard drive, you can't decrypt it unless you knew how to log into my computer. So what happens is that they decrypted the files because I was logged in. So therefore, the Microsoft's crypto DLLs were live and had access to my decryption tokens. So with that, it went to take the Chrome files, used my login credentials, even though I was logged in as user, but it was good enough. Used the Microsoft's decryption library, decrypted everything, got the plain text, and sent it up. And to my horror, I found how easy this was. On GitHub, I have counted no less than 12 different samples of 12 different people figuring out how to do this. And I'm like, the ability to run a script on my machine, and the only thing I had to do was be logged in, which usually I am because I'm running the machine, and have Chrome open. Or just Chrome existing, really, that's it. Then close Chrome, go to the files, decrypt them, and then send them home. And because I have a firewall, but the trouble is Discord already had a channel open. So they used a Discord endpoint to send the data out to bypass my firewall. So it's like, well, clever. So of course, after this occurred, the kid was pretending, oh no, I didn't do it. Now, let me give you the context. This is how I was spearphished. This wasn't a random attack. He went after me. I got a friend request on Discord about a week ago from someone named Yoral or something like that. This person starts off by saying hi, and I say hello. Hello, how are you doing? I'm doing well. And then he comes up and says, hey, can you play my game? And I go, what game is that? He says, oh, here's my website. And the game is called Play Damned. You open up the website, and there is a beautiful website of a retro-style side-scrolling fighting game. Now, this side-scrolling fighting game, I look at the graphics, I look at the stuff, it's really old school, really nice. Yeah, so I asked him, so what do you want? Are you looking for a publishing deal? Are you looking for funding? Or are you just looking for game advice? And I was like, oh, I just want advice. I just want you to run this, go and tell me what you think about the game. So I then look at the website, I see the file, but instead of being a zip file, it was, or an MSI file, it was a RAR file, which I already thought was kind of strange. So downloaded it, looked at the contents, and the only thing that was inside of it was a program called damnedsetup.exe, which had a cute little icon of basically a retro game. So being a retro game publisher and so forth, it's like, okay, well, in this particular case, I said, I'm not going to run this thing. Can you show me a video? Can you show me some stuff? And then he shows me links on his website of GIFs of the game running. So I'm like, okay, well, what is it you want to do? So I was like, well, here, can you accept this download? And then he says, download the game. And of course it says damnsetup.exe. And I'm like, okay, let's just download it, thinking that it's just harmless to download, not to execute. Well, as soon as it was finished downloading, Windows virus came up and says, this is a Trojan. And I'm like, what the hell happened? And so I was like, okay, well, obviously I'm not going to run this. But then all of a sudden, my screens disappear. And both, Chrome disappears, Discord disappears, and both of them come right back. And I go like, okay, they both disappear, so I have to relaunch them manually. At this point, I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I immediately pull up Discord on my phone, because I know it's not compromised, and I went in there and changed my password. So as soon as I changed my password on Discord, I then said, all right, let me go ahead and check on what's going on with Gmail or Google. And then the kid was saying, like, did you run it? Did you run it? So it's like, no, but something happened. What's going on? And I tried video conferencing with the kid, but he refuses to get online. And at this point, it's like, okay, I think I know what's really going on here. And then, of course, a moment later, I got a confirmation email. My phone said somebody's trying to log in to your Gmail account via Velha, Brazil. Is this you? And of course I said no, which is two-factor authentication, which then confirmed my fears. I was like, fuck. So I went over to immediately pull up the I just restarted my computer. Just restarted it because in case he installed any crypto mining or anything else, because I didn't know what he had done yet. I just restarted the machine, started up in safe mode, did a check, found he didn't install anything, so obviously it was just a script that did an action and quit it. And then at that point, I then restarted again in regular mode, but at this point, I already got a report from Spotify saying, someone just tried to log into your Spotify. Is this you? It's like, no. And then at that point, okay, let's go on the list. I have actual list of saying, in case of emergency, break glass, which is a links of every one of things like my banks, my stuff like that. Now, every single account that I had that it supports two-factor authentication, I had. Because to give you an idea, my Google Authenticator app, when I pull it up with all the different two-factor codes, I could scroll quite a bit because so many websites have that enabled. And basically, it's what kept this kid from logging into things like my bank account, Facebook, Twitter, because I was getting emails saying, hey, someone's trying to log into here. This looks suspicious. Do you wish to kill this? And it goes, yes, kill this, kill this, kill this, kill this. And so I went ahead and changed all my Twitter passwords, changed all my Facebook passwords, changed all my banking information. And basically for the next 3 or 4 hours, to me, I was getting a little nervous because I knew this was a race in which this kid was going to try to access every one of my sites. And there are some sites that I have information on I really don't want to be shared, that the sites don't support two-factor. So I went there and changed their names first, changed all their passwords and so forth. So by the time it was around 2 a.m., I pretty much felt comfortable that anything that I didn't change the password yet are ones where, sure, why? He goes to a My Little Pony fan fiction forum. Okay, fine, if he logs in as me, what damage is he going to do? And who cares? But I then decided it's time to strike back. So I went back to that kid's account, and I found every single server he was attached to. And I went to every one of those Discord servers and told them, this is what happened. Don't be aware of this kid, blah, blah, blah. So he was banned all over Discord. So, and other people were like, oh my God, this person hacked you. It says, yep, hacked me. It even happened. And I try to pride myself on being someone who's smart enough to not get hacked. Yet, being spearphished was something new. So now I am going to have to go for the rest of my life realizing that you can't trust anyone on the internet. And now I've discovered that there's a silly flaw in Chrome and Firefox that if you store your passwords in those browsers, all someone has to do is run a script in your machine and it's game over. Which now brings me to the very fact that this exists means you have no security whatsoever. None. And the reason I say this is that who's to say I write a video game, a cute little video game, I then advertise it like hell, get maybe 1 million people to download it, but inside this game is a piece of software that when I trigger it, it will run that script and then send it back to me. So you're going to be running and playing super high-res fun game. You're sitting there playing it, and then all of a sudden, I send a command because you're logged in machine and you've got Chrome. I just got all your passwords. And then I could go ahead and get the passwords of 1 million people and no one would know. Because this particular attack required no interaction whatsoever. And all you'd notice is you're playing the game, it's full screen or even a window, and the only thing you might notice is Chrome just closed. And of course, if it's Windows, well, Chrome crashes. I mean, that's just a fact of life. So you don't even think anything of it. And then, of course, maybe a week or two later, you then find all your passwords have been compromised, and all of your banking sites and crypto, whatever it is, because that's one of the things I did notice when I reverse engineered the code was that he was scanning my machine for crypto wallets. Little does he know, I don't have any because I'm not a believer in crypto. So if he was trying to empty out my crypto wallets, and he came up empty. So if, I own no NFTs, I don't own a single token, I don't own any of that stuff. So therefore, yeah. But that's what the script was. The script was literally a copy of something I saw on GitHub for pulling off Firefox and Chrome passwords. A script part of it also was to grab your Discord password and your tokens, and then it sent it to a Discord endpoint. And that's what it did. And so okay, so, I technically dodged a bullet because had I run the setup program and in my main machine, who knows what it could have carried. It could have carried a, one of those, crypto miners where they put it in the background, running it as a background app, and you don't even see what it's doing. And next thing you know, it's, installing shit, or you are doing, what's it called? It could encrypt my hard drive and put up ransomware. I mean, you keep hearing about hospitals and schools being hit. For all I know, somebody could have tried to get me to install something that would have encrypted my entire hard drive, and I would have had no choice but to pay the ransom. Now, granted, I do have off-site backups for pretty much everything, but it's just one where the hassle and stuff like that. And the fact is, even though I had all these passwords and everything prioritized, it still took me from Thursday afternoon when this fun began to now, which is Saturday afternoon. So we're already talking over 48 hours of my time has been flushed down the toilet, having to go through all of my old websites, every website I know, and change the passwords. Like even this Twitch thing, I had to change my Twitch password, my YouTube, my Gmail password, my Facebook password, and then I had to redo all the tokens and set them up so I can reset everything here. So I'm currently using a brand new Streamlabs password, a brand new Twitch password, brand new Facebook password, all to bring this wonderful news to you. But had none of those accounts had two-factor authentication, that would have easily been taken over by this person, and who knows what they would have done with it. I mean, had, let's say, somebody taken my Facebook account, it's bad enough to reset your password, but if a person takes over my email because they got my email passwords, and that was the first things I changed. First it was the email passwords all changed, so then therefore he couldn't log in as my email, so then he'd go around resetting passwords and then trying to intercept the emails and using that to chain everything. It was Michael Cranford trying to get the source to Bard's Tale 4. Yeah, that would be funny. First off, he doesn't live in Brazil, and second, all he has to do is go to Brian Fargo, and Brian would probably just give it to him for that Bard's Tale 4 in Exile did. So, and let's put it this way, what would Cranford do with it? Context. I did Bard's Tale 3. Michael Cranford created Bard's Tale 1 and 2, and I did the 2GS versions of 1 and 2. That engine was used to make 3, and then In Exile got the rights, and then they did Bard's Tale 4, and Michael Cranford had some involvement in it, because Bard's Tale 3 he had no involvement whatsoever. But anyways, back to, it was just joking. Yeah, anyways, but just wanted to give the context to the question. But back to what I was saying, is that because I had two-factor authentication on everything, it's literally what saved me from having to literally pick up the phone or start an email thread using a brand new email account to Facebook saying, hey, my Facebook account's been hacked. Can you go ahead and call me on my old phone number to verify my identity? And then I have to go jump through 700 hoops about where I've lived to verify that I am indeed who I say I am. And then, and only then, they'll restore the account back to me. And of course, I got to do this with the, yeah, someone says, I had two-factor, was still compromised. They stole my cookies. Yeah, that's another thing they do. They could still steal the cookies. Thankfully for me is that, once you change your password, it resets all the cookies. Now, granted, there's some older websites and stuff like that that don't do that, but that was one of the things I did as well. It's like, when I went to a website, I would log in, change the password, log out, then log back in again. And that resets the cookies, including ones on other machines. And of course, on certain sites which allow you to maintain logins on other machines, I say reset all devices, like Netflix. Went in there, reset all devices. Later last night, I had to go downstairs and reactivate all of my streaming apps because I reset all the cookies. Let's see. They had the cookie in my Bitwarden web password manager. Yep, there you go. But that's the big problem. Now, of course, most of the managers like NordPass, so the reason I chose it doesn't use cookies. What it does is that you have to have a plug-in into Chrome and Facebook. Chrome and Mozilla. And that plug-in is the one that communicates with the password manager to get the passwords. So it doesn't log into, let's say, some website or something like that, which then pulls in the passwords. The only software that has the cookie, or shall we say, in fact, they don't even, the cookie only exists in the password manager to their home servers, and they don't even use a cookie. They just keep sending, encrypted shit like that. But it is something that if a cookie could be used to break in, that's another thing. Now, again, context. What is a cookie? When you log into something, what goes on is that you send a string to a website, which says, like facebook.com/login. Facebook comes up and says, hey, type in your password and type in your account. When you hit return, what the app does is that it asks the other server, can you give me a public key? And on the other side, it's private, so they can encrypt it. I then take this data, salt it. So I don't even send the string. I send a hash of some kind that's been pre-salted and stuff, encrypt it, and then send it across. And then, of course, it's sent SSL, on a secure encrypted channel, so it's double encrypted. When it gets to Facebook, it then decrypts it, and then gets the salt, verifies that the password matches. Then it generates what is known as a cookie. A cookie is a special, large number, anywhere from 128 bits, it's 8 bytes, to 256, maybe in some places it could be as much as 1,024 bits. Your mileage will vary based on the website, but generally it's 256. It will then give you this number, and of course it sends it back to you encrypted so that nobody sniffing the internet lines could find this. Once it's in your computer, then what it does is that every time it communicates to Facebook or something like that to grab data that's kind of private, it sends this value. And Facebook says, oh, we don't have to go through that login anymore, because since we have this value and it's a copy of it sitting in Facebook, it matches. Like, oh, everything's cool. Go ahead and send the information, and gives you all the permission associated with your account. Now, cookies expire. Now, of course, or stays on your machine. That's why you log into Facebook, and then you close your browser. You open your Facebook, and it's still logged in. That's how it works, because the cookie is a value that tells the Facebook servers that everything's fine. Now, most modern systems these days, when they generate that cookie internally at, let's say, Facebook, they also associate an IP address. So therefore, someone who's to steal your cookie, that value, and go to another machine and use it to say, hey, look, I'm Becky. I'm in Brazil now. I'm still logged in. It'll say, but that IP address doesn't match, and kick you out. Now, this is only something that's been recent, but most people are doing it now. But like maybe Bitwarden at the time didn't have that second authentication or something, that every time the cookies come in, it's got to verify that it's legit or something like that. I know there was a problem with Roblox, that they had people stealing each other's cookies to steal authentication tokens. But stealing cookies, stealing passwords, it's one of those things where it's like, gee, what the hell? And of course, the act of, on most websites, the act of changing our password automatically has the side effect of, go fix this here, just make sure I didn't drop something on the floor that I shouldn't have dropped. No, looks like I got everything except just a couple of cat treats. Whoop. Stop that. But anyways, now, of course, granted, not every website's modern. Not every website's got protections. Not every website's got two-factor authentication. But the reality that just really drives home is that it is not that hard for someone to get access to your passwords and then immediately get access to your data. And, of course, things like the bank, they would say, like, oh, all of a sudden you want to transfer, the entirety of your bank account to this new bank account in Brazil or something like that. That's real. And just looking around for something I thought dropped, but maybe didn't. Oh well, maybe I just missed something else. Anyways, so we are literally, in this digital age, you got to take every precaution you can, because if you don't, then you could easily play victim to one of these really, really unscrupulous people who will grab your passwords, log into your accounts, try to log into your Steam account or your good old games account, which this guy did. He tried. And every one of them was saying, nope, two-factor, two-factor, two-factor. And a lot of them were sending me emails, because I actually, on websites that support it, I have it set to, if someone logs in, send me an email. And that's why I got a bunch of emails which told me what he was doing was going through, he was looking through the list and saying, this looks interesting, let's try logging in there. And he, it was obviously he was trying to get crypto, and he was trying to get games, because he first tried to get into Facebook, Twitter, and Google, and then afterwards he went straight to Steam, Epic Games, and Good Old Games. And then he went over to Wells Fargo, my bank account, and Instagram, and so forth. And I had to go ahead and change every one of his passwords. And then later on, he moved over to Spotify. At least he was smart enough not to try to log into my Apple account, because Apple always tracks everything. Apple's really, really good about, if you try to log in your Apple ID and you are in an area it's never logged into, the first thing it does is puts an alert on your phone saying, hey, you're logging in here, what's going on? Which, of course, what he was hoping was that I didn't put two-factor authentication or any of these other safeguards, so that he would have been logging in these sites, doing who knows what he wants to do, and then logging out and hoping that I would never know. Because two things. One, if he was looking for either crypto or money, he would have logged into like PayPal or my bank and so forth, and he would have tried to see if I didn't have outgoing monies locked. Now, most banks these days, if you go in there and say, I want to send money to a account that's never been done before, it will then say, oh, I can't use international, especially international wire transfers. It would say it takes 3 to 4 days, or you actually have to go into the bank to authorize this account. Because, people have gone into bank accounts through their credentials and then transferred all the money to some account offshore. The other thing that you could do is just go to PayPal. He would have gone to PayPal and say, transfer all the money from PayPal, or if it was attached to my bank account, say, transfer all this money. Like, he would log in on my bank account, saw how much money in my bank, says, okay, I could take this much money. Go to PayPal, go to its limits, and just say, transfer this much money to PayPal to me. Of course, I would then discover what's going on and try to reverse a transaction. But of course, if you take too long, it's gone. So it was like PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. I mean, all these different things I had to deal with it to change their passwords. So it was not fun. Let me go fix this. But anyways, back to what I was saying is that, so therein is my story. I really was, as Blitzkrieg 9 says, you feel violated. Yeah, I did too. Let's get the context here. Blitzkrieg writes, I had two-factor. It was still compromised. They stole my cookies. They were logging in without triggering two-factor. I don't know, you fund video games. Do you only fund retro style? No, I fund games that fit old school. Something, of course, be a publishing deal, blah, 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 blah. And lastly, I'm not rich, so don't come in here thinking, hey, I got a $2 million idea. I was like, do I look like I have $2 million? I might have 2,000, maybe, but that's about it. But the next, Blitzkrieg said they used it on Facebook and Microsoft 2 years ago. Okay. And you feel violated. Yeah, Facebook fixed the issue with the cookies, and they now have them tied to IP addresses because people were hacking that way. And of course, that goes back to, once something is invented, someone finds a way around it, so then they put up a defense, then they try to find a new way to get around the defense, and then they get around that, and blah, 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 blah. The Amazing Kelly writes, yeah, it's a hard time trusting that machine without a wipe. Yep, there you go. Thankfully it had SSD in here, so reinstalling software wasn't that difficult, but still, it took a while to make certain that I didn't have any crypto mining things or stuff like that. I mean, I have a router here that looks for unknown data traffic, and that's how I knew that a JSON file with plain text was sent out. But that was all the traffic I saw. So I didn't see any traffic like, oh, he's scanning all my files and sending it off and so forth. But of course, I had to change my Backblaze password immediately as well, because that's, I have an offsite backup, and if somebody had access to Backblaze, but two-factor as well, they could have basically looked at the contents of my hard drive. So yeah, it's fun. Blitzkrieg writes, there's plenty of interesting things in your bookcase behind Trip to Memory Lane. Yeah, they should make just a show just pulling up one thing off the shelf and then talking about it. But anyways, that's my my journey through hell, in the form that somebody, hacked my system, grabbed my passwords. I then had to play cat and mouse with the person. Of course, thankfully, now I know their location, so like if I was really evil and actually had money, I'd send a squad down there to have this person's kneecaps broken and then tossed into a Brazilian jail, which I'm certain is not fun, because what he did, he literally violated me. And the thing that was also intriguing was this playdamned.com website. I think it's still up, but he's using that to try to get people to download this game. And what he's been doing is he's been going on Discord saying, hey, I got this great new game I want you to try out. Can you try it out? And goes on Discord channels. Then people will go there, download this thing, and it wouldn't run. And then he would just go on to the next site, all the while grabbing the people's passwords. Like, if I'm not mistaken, he's probably already tricked somebody else and is now no longer even looking at my passwords. He's looking at somebody else's passwords to see if they can get in. Because, after, I think he was trying my passwords for about 2 to 3 hours before I noticed that he just stopped. And my assumption has been that he tricked somebody else into giving passwords, and he's bothering that person now. And, of course, after 3 hours and finding he's getting pretty much nothing, because every single site was either two-factored or I already changed the password before he tried it, meaning that he's already triggered enough services out there saying, hey, if anybody's at this IP address, you better stop taking its traffic. But it was, a complete utter waste of my time. Like, I had a demo of a game I had to release yesterday to a client, and I had to sheepishly tell them, it's going to be delayed for a couple of days because this is priority one, because I cannot have these passwords out there in the wild. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in the next couple of days the kid takes all the passwords he's collected, bundles it up, and just sells it on the dark web. And it then shows up on some report saying, hey, Becky at BurgerBecky.com has been compromised. Here's a list of passwords. And, of course, hopefully I've gotten every one of my passwords, because if it comes up saying there's a match, like, oops, I guess I missed one. But then again, mylittleponyfiction.net, which I did change the password to, is one of those, like, okay, if I missed that one, fine. If they want to read My Little Pony fan fiction, go for it. But it's not like they need my password to get access to that information anyways. But the real thing that really screws you up is if somebody got the password to my email accounts and then we're able to somehow bypass downloading the emails, the two-factor and stuff, and it has the ability for them to go to a website, type in my email address, hit reset password, which then they get an email saying, okay, here's the link for the reset password. They go there, reset my password, and then they go ahead and log in, and of course they still can't get in because of two-factor. But my problem is that I can't get back that account until I get back my email account, so then I can reset the password again so I can go ahead and get my account back. And it's one of the things that helps drive me home, a decision I made years ago, was that I was never, ever, ever going to either run a BBS forum or I was going to have anything on Old School's website that accepts accounts at all. If I was going to pay a service like my webcomic Sailor Ronco. I have comments in there. You can log in, but I'm using a service called Discuss. DISQUS, Discuss. Because if anybody loses their password or something like that, it's Discuss's problem, not mine. Because I wouldn't even have any of the time or resources to deal with the hundreds, if not thousands of people every day who get their credentials stolen and then contact the company saying, hey, I'm XYZ and someone stole my account. And then you have to give them all the rigmarole, because as it's been found, if you don't give them the rigmarole, I could be a hacker. And if I knew enough information about, let's say, Brad Pitt, like I knew his birthday, his kid's name, his father's, his mother's maiden name, social security number, and so forth, I could then call up AT&T and say, and of course he has AT&T as his phone. I say, hey, I'm Brad Pitt's assistant. He lost his phone and we need to set the phone to this EIM drive. Oh yeah, it's Brad Pitt. Here's his name, social security, blah, blah, blah. Everything's fine. Okay, got information. Great. Change the EIN number. Okay, got it. Great. Thanks. Click. Now my phone is Brad Pitt's phone. And then at that point, two-factor authentication is out the window for the phone, which is why SMS is getting more and more unreliable, which is why there's only two things that are really reliable. Authenticator apps on your phone or YubiKeys. Those are the only things that are pretty good in getting past for two-factor authentication, because if it's possible for someone to call up an Amazon service rep or an AT&T service rep, bully them into making them believe it's you or an agent of you because you're in trouble or whatever it is, and change your phone, it's like your phone SMS and stuff can't come to you, then you're in trouble. Now, they don't really do that with emails, because with emails, they usually they send a ping to your phone and stuff like that, and they ask you to use your phone to go ahead and log into a special website, which then pulls the EMI number, which then verifies that they've got the right one. But it is, we live in a very dangerous world with very, very bad people who you're just one stone's throws away. I mean, I look at the internet and I really think of it as this giant stone fortress, beautiful stone fortress, glistening walls, towers that are 40 feet high and so forth. And then there's a little back servant's door that's usually just held together with a small latch. And all you got to do is just know how to wiggle that latch and you're in. And that's pretty much the internet. Let's see here. I'm thinking it would be scary if someone put a game to download on Steam and send viruses and steal data from people. Yeah, and that's the problem. I brought that up, is that because you can run a script on a computer and it'll grab all your passwords, means that there's no reason why you couldn't create an app or a game or something, put it out there, and it's completely harmless. It's a really fun game. That people even put money into this. But then once they say fire, they then send a signal to the game, captures your passwords, sends it off, and of course if it's a net game, it's just another network packet, so you wouldn't even know. Sends it to one of its servers, it then sends that packet instead of the other games, it sends it to their command and control server, and then at that point they collect all these passwords, collate it all, put it up on the dark web and says, hey, I got all these passwords, and they're prime passwords, even credit card numbers and stuff like that. Of course we can't scrape the 3-digit codes because they don't store that, but we got the credit card numbers, so we can work with that. There you go. Person says, I love security questions. I like the time I log in so information is public enough to look up if you know where to look. Well, the way I do it is I get a security question, so it's like, what's your mother's maiden name? And I use a word that's, I know what it is, and it's the wrong answer. And that's the answer. Because that way it says, like, okay, you want to get in? What's your mother's maiden name? And I'll just say blah. And it says, yep, that's your mother's maiden name. But if you look up my mother and you see what her maiden name is, you're like, wait a minute, that's not the word. Things like, what's your high school? Well, I have a high school. That's what I'm telling everybody I'm graduated from. It's not the one I graduated from. The first pet. It's a name I pull out of my butt, and that's what I'm using. But it's to get past that, because, password reset. Oh, you can't get in? What's the name of your city? What's the name of this? What's the name of that? And if they knew enough information about me, they could figure that information out. So I put in bullshit that only I know. But of course, if somebody ever came to my desk and something and found a little scribbled paper that has all that information on it, which I use as my, oh God, what did I say for that question? This is my answer. Then I'm kind of boned. But then again, if somebody's rifling through my office, I'm already boned anyways. Ice Copeland says, still better than not having two-factor. Yep. But anyway, so that was all I really wanted to ramble about today. Next time I'm going to talk about something more interesting about the history of the video games. One thing I've also posted both on Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch is, it may notice a brand new banner, because I'm going to be starting to do educational videos, and this is going to be more scripted, in which is just a video I actually produced, put together, and then just posted up on YouTube, kind of like any other educational show and so forth, instead of this being live broadcast, which is just nothing but an unfiltered train of thought using words. RCV writes, have you heard about the recent Australian hacks? Octopus, second biggest telco got hacked. Medibank, biggest health insurer, got hacked. All the details you need to give those companies are on the web now. Yep. Well, the issue is this. you could put as many security safeguards as you can if you own a company. Let's say I owned Twitter, which we now know I don't because it's owned by Elon Musk. However, Elon Musk owns Twitter, which means legally he can go right now to the IT department into the room and copy the entire Twitter database, which includes every tweet ever made, every tweet ever deleted, every picture, file uploaded, etc., the names and addresses and contact information for everybody who actually created those accounts, and then send it to Russia. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. Which is why it always goes back to, whenever you're using any sort of service, there has to be some level of trust, and beyond that, there has to be some level of accountability. The fact is that right now, there are no laws that state that someone could just simply create a media company, like Truth Social, harvest all this data from all these people, their email addresses, their names, addresses, phone numbers, and then all the information they post on this thing, and then collect it all and then send it to somebody who may find this information interesting. And then other people get the information together, they collate it, and then figure out an exact profile of pretty much everyone on the planet. Now, most of the times they use this for marketing. John Oliver did a very, very good talk on his show last week tonight called Data Brokers. You really should watch that. It's really enlightening to figure out how people could just take little scraps of information based on you going around through the web and finding, basically, like, what laundry detergents do you use? Are you pregnant? Are you using drugs? Are you somebody who likes the Xbox over the PlayStation? I mean, anything about you that they can target, they can then zero in on you and find out, stuff that they will then just send to you in advertisements. Or, in some cases, they'll even just physically mail you stuff because they say, hey, it looks like you did some Google searches of, am I pregnant? And then a couple weeks later, you start getting letters in the mail saying, here are baby supply coupons. It's like, and of course, you're sitting there going like, creepy. But as long as that there's people who are unscrupulous, they will use their positions in the companies they work for and grab all the information. It doesn't have to be Elon Musk. It can be anybody who works in the company. And that's every company. And right now, as it is, data theft laws need to be made more stringent and more punishable. And police have to be educated on what exactly is data theft. It's not just someone stealing a hard drive and that's worth $100 or a memory stick that's worth $20. That data on there is worth millions of dollars, and it will disrupt the lives of thousands, if not millions of people, depending on where this data was obtained. I mean, somebody could be working at Facebook right now who basically just says, screw this, starts scraping all the passwords, then puts it on a mem stick, and then manages to somehow get out of the premises and then give this mem stick to an unscrupulous person who then uploads it to the dark web or sends it off to China to then be used for who knows what. And, that's again also the reason why you need to change your passwords on a regular basis, because how do you know? Because right now we see this data breach here, data breach there. There are probably data breaches, I think for every data breach you hear of, there's at least 10 you don't. Because the data is breached, but the company doesn't want to be embarrassed, so they bury it. And their first thing they do is they go through everybody's accounts and just reset their passwords. So next time you log in to a website and all of a sudden it says, oh, you need to reset your password. It's expired or out of date or something. It could be their way of saying, oh, we got hacked. We're trying to protect you from the hack, but we don't want to admit we got hacked. So there you go. If data theft laws went into effect, I wonder what would affect advertising on the internet. Probably nothing at all, because all the data theft is basically to make it so anybody who wishes to make money or decides to say screw the company I'm working for, that I'm going to do this kind of damage, means that, well, do I want to spend the next 25 years in Sing Sing? Is it worth it? There you go. Anyways, I'm going to be signing off because it's now been about almost an hour, and I don't want to bore you anymore. I will be coming back in the next couple of days with some more fancy adventures, but hopefully ones that don't involve me screaming and yelling about, I don't remember this website. Oh yeah, I logged into it 12 years ago. Okay, just delete the account and delete the passwords because it's like, sure, yeah, don't need that anymore. And of course, the thing was that the passwords go back like 12 years, and of course I'd say about half of those accounts aren't even valid because the websites they're attached to, like Plaxo.com, doesn't even exist anymore. So I just went ahead and said delete, delete, delete. So they've got entries in their little data breach thing. It's like, who cares about Plaxo passwords? Because like, who uses Plaxo anymore? The company went defunct like in 2017. But anyway.